What's up, everyone? This is the Minister of Beauty, and thank you for joining me for another video. This is Business Mondays, and as you all know, I share the Bible. That's business, inspiration, beauty, life, and enjoyment. Well, I wanted to talk about this, and this is not a popular subject, but I wanted to talk about suffering and how that relates with being successful. And is it necessary to suffer in order to see success? Here is the short answer to this, and then I'll just go into why I feel this way. I believe, unfortunately, in true success, especially in business and as an entrepreneur, suffering is a part of it. You may not experience it immediately. You may not experience it on a level that others may have or will experience it, but I do believe that it is something that you are going to experience and that it is necessary in some way, shape, or form. Now, for me, I like to relate things back to the Bible, back to the Word of God, because that is what I believe. You may not believe that way, and that is 100% fine. But just giving like the first example of success. When you think of Jesus Christ, he believed what his mission was. He was, I'll just kind of, have a play on words. He was hell bent on making sure that what he was here to do here on earth was going to be fulfilled. His mission, what he was sent to do, was going to be fulfilled, whether people believed him, whether people mocked him, whether they crucified him, which is what they absolutely did. He was successful. I do believe that his mission was fulfilled and that it is still being fulfilled by those who believed his teachings over 2,000 years ago that are still here today, teaching and preaching the Word of God. He died for that. He laid his life down and he suffered, bled, and died on the cross. He was crucified for what he believed. And a lot of people who are going through things in their businesses today can look at that as an example to see that you may go through things in your business. It doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing. It doesn't mean that you're not successful. In actuality, if you are suffering or have suffered in some way, shape, or form, that probably means that you are destined to get to where you're going if you don't stop. You can take breaks. I've talked about that before. Like, quitting doesn't mean giving up. You may quit something in order to do something a different way, but it doesn't mean that you're giving up. And in business, we may have to pivot. We may have to do things differently. We may have to operate in a different way. We may have to restructure some things. And most businesses that continue to grow and thrive do that. Most businesses. There may be some businesses that you can recall or that you can use as an example that haven't made any pivots or haven't changed anything that they have done, but they've changed something. They may, like, for example, it may be a restaurant that cooks their burgers a certain way and they've never pivoted from the way they cook those burgers, but they've made, some implementations or some changes to the venue over the years to make things work for the way things are today, and just using that as an example. But it doesn't mean that they haven't made any changes. Now, you may go through some financial struggles, you may go through some health struggles, you may go through some family struggles. I can testify and say that I've gone through all of those. I've gone through health struggles, I've gone through financial struggles, and I've gone through family struggles. I've gone through all of those things, and it doesn't feel good. It never feels good when you're struggling. Even when Jesus was knowing what his destiny was to eventually go to the cross, he even prayed to God and said, if this be your will, take this cup away from me. What he was saying was, God, I don't want this to happen. I don't want to have to go through this. I don't want to have to suffer, but not my will, but your will be done. So we may go through some things. It doesn't mean that you're going to be excited about it. Nobody enjoys suffering and struggling. Nobody enjoys suffering and struggling. And if you do, then I would say that probably, something needs to be checked somewhere. I'm just being honest. But it definitely is something that I believe that most successful people will endure in some space of their careers. Now, again, you may not experience it immediately, but you will experience it. If you're a business that has staff, you may go through staffing struggles. I know a lot of businesses, especially now, post-pandemic, or we may even say we're still going through the pandemic, which in actuality we really are dealing with staffing struggles. I've seen a number of businesses that have had to close their doors, shutter completely, or they've had to change their hours and those different things because they've been dealing with staffing struggles. A lot of businesses have had to shut down due to financial struggles. I will, testify to that I definitely have been dealing with some things in that area as well, but I'm grateful to say that my business is still operational. It may not be where it was it may not be where it was pre-pandemic, but because I am doing things in a certain way, I do believe that I will eventually get back to that place, and I'm not giving up. I may have quit some things here and there, but I'm not giving up. Now, also, you may go through health struggles. I've gone through health struggles. It is a very hard thing, and sometimes when you go through health struggles, it will add to financial struggles as well, depending on the health struggles that you may be going through. And then you may also be going through financial struggles just alone without the added health issues. But those things, the suffering and the struggling, going through those things in business are not indicators that you don't know what you're doing in business. In actuality, I kind of sometimes believe that those who have suffered and those who have struggled, those are the best situations for really learning who you are, really growing into who you are destined to become. And I'll just throw a couple of examples out there, and you may not really care for these people, but the examples are still the examples nonetheless. Tyler Perry. We know that he was declared to be a billionaire. He definitely went through some suffering and some struggles. He talked about how he lived in his car for a long period of time. How many of us can say that we lived in our car? Not me, thank God. That's never been my lot, and I don't believe that it ever will be. But I definitely have dealt with housing situations over the years. I've never had to live in my car. I've never had to live in a shelter or in a homeless shelter, but I've dealt with some of those sufferings and struggles as well. Oprah Winfrey, again, it may be somebody that you don't absolutely care for, but she's dealt with suffering and struggles as well through her life. And she's one of the most well-known women, and I don't know if she's ever been declared a billionaire, but she definitely is close to it if she has not been declared a billionaire. Rihanna, she has been declared to be a billionaire, and a lot of it is based off of her Fenty line, her Fenty beauty line. But she came from Barbados. She didn't come from wealth. She didn't come from money. She's gone through her sufferings and her struggles, and look at where she is, today. And those are just a few examples. I know that there's many more. You can even list Steve Jobs on that list, and I will use him as an example of going through sufferings and struggles after you have already achieved success. We know that he was stricken with cancer. This was during the height of his success. And unfortunately, he passed away from suffering and struggling with that disease. But the brand that he created, it goes on today. It continues to flourish. And I believe there's going to be another iPhone drop maybe in a couple of weeks from when I'm recording this video. So suffering and struggling in business and just in life in general, it doesn't even just have to be about business, but going through suffering and struggling is not an indicator that you are not successful. It actually is more of an indicator that if you do not give up, you definitely will become successful, because there is a journey that you have to get to and some things that you have to go through in order to get to that pinnacle and that peak. And just using another example from the Bible, the story of Joseph, some of you may not be familiar with that, but Joseph, he was betrayed by his brothers. He was sold into slavery and just a lot of different things that Joseph went through. But Joseph went from the pit to the palace. He went from his brothers like hiding him in a pit in the ground and going to prison to being the leader of a country and becoming king, and actually having to turn around and help those same people that turned on him and that betrayed him, his blood family. And when I tell you I've experienced things like that, that's why I said I've gone through the sufferings and the struggles of financial, familial, and and health. It's not fun, it's not easy, but the success that I have been able to achieve over the years, and that I'm still getting to, I'm still working towards, a lot of different things, I can say that I have a testimony, and I know that all the things that I've gone through to get to where I am and to get to where I'm going has not been in vain, and it has been for a reason. And I also do believe that when you go through things versus someone who was just handed an inheritance, or they walked into a situation where they were just given it all and they didn't have to work for it, they didn't really have to suffer for it, that's why you will see a lot of people lose situations like that, because they didn't have to go through anything to gain it. I do believe that those who really suffer, those who really go through things in their life, those who really struggle with things as they are going towards their journey in becoming a successful person in their businesses and just in their life overall, those are the people that you can truly learn and obtain something from, because they actually had to go through some things in order to get there. And I don't know if you've ever seen this movie called The 5 Heartbeats. It's about this singing group, and the movie was written by God, I can't remember the comedian's name right now as we talk about it. I should know that. But he also played a part in the movie, and he played the part of one of the singers in the group that they call Duck. And he was the one that wrote all of the songs, the majority of the songs for the group. And they were accepting an award for, I guess, Hall of Fame or some type of achievement award. It wasn't like a Grammy or anything like that. And I'll never forget this part from the movie, because his brother backstabbed him and betrayed him. His brother was seeing the woman that he was engaged to be married to behind his back, and he found out about it, and it really cut him to the core. So when they were accepting their awards, he got up to the mic and he said this line, and he said that someone once said to him, he read in an article somewhere that someone said that he will become a better songwriter when he's suffered more. And I'll never forget that. And that movie is years old, and I've seen it so many different times over the years when they played it on television and played reruns of it. But he said, he never really knew what that meant until he actually went through it. And he said, I'm on my way to becoming a great songwriter, and I want to thank my brother and my, fiance. And I mean, they were looking at him like, what in the world are you talking about? But that's when he had learned about it, and he was letting them know, like, the jig is up, I know what's up. But what he was talking about was suffering. And he said, I'm on my way to being even greater because of the suffering that I am going through and that I am enduring. So take that line and just learn from it. When you go through some things and you struggle and you suffer, it doesn't feel good. You're going to see the people who are selling you a dream, who are selling you a course, who are selling you a product, that are going to say it's easy, you can get it lickety split, there's no effort involved, and all you have to do is this and that, but you have to pay them something in order to get that, to learn about it, right? But we don't really know, one, if they're telling the truth, but two, we don't know their background. What have they had to really go through in order to get to where they are? And a lot of times those people who are selling you things, they are not going to tell you about the struggles and the suffering that they've had to go through, that they have endured, because they feel like that is going to be the catalyst to push people away and say, no, I don't really want any parts of that. I don't want to have to go through anything. But when a woman is going to give birth to a baby, they go through labor pains. Now, there's some things now to help to ease the pain. Trust me, I know, because I had one child in my lifetime, and I made sure that they had that epidural on deck, because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to have to experience all of that pain if I did not have to. Like, why? I know there's some people that, say, I want to feel all of it. I want a natural childbirth. Nah. I had one child. And I made sure I had an epidural. Thank God it worked for me. And I said, I am not going through this ever again. So I chose not to have any more kids. But that's another story for another time. But the labor pains, you're going through suffering and you're going through struggles to give birth to this beautiful human being that is going to be a blessing to your life. So if you look at the suffering and the struggling that you're going to go through in your life as these are the labor pains that I have to endure in order for me to get to where I want to be in my life, then I believe that is something that is going to help you. So you have to keep your focus. I've talked about that before, and it can be hard to keep your focus when you are suffering and when you're struggling, but you just have to know that most of the greatest people in life, and definitely in business, have gone through suffering and struggling to get to where they are. Don't look at the pseudo people that you think are really successful, but they were just given it. And look, I'm not here to talk anything negative about the former president of the United States, but if you know his story, he wasn't really successful because he didn't have to work for anything. Everything was given to him. And that is one of the reasons why I feel that he is in a place where he is in a lot of denial about things, because everything has been given to him. And if you're somebody that has been given everything from birth to being in your freaking 70s, then no, you're not going to believe that you have to suffer and struggle and lose and not be successful and lose, cases, lose elections, lose money, That's part of life, and that's part of business. It is absolutely 100% real. And I'm not here to offend anybody who is caping for, the former president. I'm talking about him as a business person. And that is what I'm talking about, because he is honestly just an example. There are a lot of people that have that same type of mentality because they were given everything in their lives. They did not have to work for anything. So it's really hard for them to see suffering and struggling in their life. They don't believe that it's real, and they push it away and they try to avoid it. None of us want to go through those things. It doesn't feel good, like I've said before, but it is a part of life, and it definitely is a part of business. So guys, I really hope you got something from this video. Let me know if you did in the comment section. I really appreciate you liking, commenting, and subscribing. And as always, I'm the Minister of Beauty, here to share the Bible. That's business, inspiration, beauty, life, and enjoyment. So until the next time, I hope you all have an amazingly blessed and beautiful day.